Hello, everybody. So it's the end of the day. We're all pretty tired. And so I'm just going to make sure that you wake up. So if you see anybody just next to you just doing this, calling me, I'm not going to go there. But just please just wake them up and say, hey, we're going to be talking about something really interesting. So I know we just want to go party, but I'm going to be talking about something very, very important, which is web architecture. Yeah, that's me, Ruben Casas, and I'm a staff engineer at Postman. And today I'm going to be talking about Micro-frontends and React Router 6.4, very specific. Yeah, excited? Yeah? Cool. So it has been a long conference. I mean, it's 2 days. We are getting that right to the end. Well done to you. Well done for coming. You're the brave. You deserve a prize. I don't know. I don't have any coffee to give away. But you deserve a prize. And you've been here for a long time. You know also who has been here for a long time? React and Angular. Well, let's talk about React. Do you know how old is React? How old is React going to be next year? Anybody know? No? Next year, React is going to be 10 years old. That is in May. I bet you didn't know this. So React has been here for a while, and the recruiters are like, ha, 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 ha. Finally, I'm going to be asking for 10 years of experience, React developers. So they can finally say that without being mocked and being like, what are you talking about? So React is getting old. Our single-page applications are getting old. And you know what happens when things start getting old and things keep growing and growing? So things have been there for a while, keep growing, 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 until kaboom. Things that used to work before don't work anymore. And things are getting harder and harder to do, to deploy and to be fast and deliver features faster. So you might have some of these problems. So for example, lines of code. Your application has too many lines of code now developers, too many developers. The CI takes a long time, so you just go and check Twitter while the CI is running. Everybody has done that. Don't tell me I'm the only one. Just go and check in Twitter while your CI is doing your job. Also, feature duplication, spaghetti code. There is no clear ownership. The circular dependencies, dependency graph is a mess. So this happens. I mean, applications grow, they get bigger, they start to break. So people started thinking, micro-frontends. Is this a solution for all of my problems? Probably not. But maybe micro-frontends is one of the solutions. But where do we start? That's the problem with micro-frontends. People don't know where to start. And believe it or not, a lot of companies are using micro-frontends one way or the other. They might be doing micro-frontends, and they don't even know that they're doing micro-frontends. But where do we start? And that's what a lot of people have this question. Where do we start? Let me start here. This is a compulsory slide. So if you have ever been to a micro-frontends talk before, how many of you have been to a micro-frontends talk before? That is always there, But first, what are micro-frontends? This is the compulsory slide. Actually, I have a talk just mocking this because I have to explain. And today, actually, I just saw a tweet. This is very, very up-to-date tweet about, OK, what are micro-frontends? And there's a lot of confusion about what exactly micro-frontends are. So I have a separate talk talking about exactly what they are, but I'm just going to do the typical. It depends. That's what architects like to do. It depends. That's the only time I'm going to say it depends. If I say it depends again, please let me know. It is an architectural style or an architectural pattern where you can deploy and deliver independent applications and compose them into a greater whole. So that is the definition of micro-frontends. OK, we're done. Do you know what micro-frontends are? It's very confusing, the definition. But let's just keep it as it's an architectural style that allows you to do independent front-end deployments. They are not technology. This is the problem. When we are trying to define what micro-frontends are, we know it's an architectural pattern. But then when we start confusing the micro-frontends pattern with the technology that supports micro-frontends, then we get the confusion. So they are not technology. They are an architectural pattern. And we have some technology that supports the architectural pattern and allows us to do things like independent deployments. Things like improving your business agility so you can deploy faster and get that code to your users faster. But again, bottom line is, it's an architectural pattern to solve an organizational issue. And this is the key, an issue. Someone asked me today during the workshop, shall I use Micro-frontends? I always like to answer, do you have an issue? Do you have a problem? No. OK, you don't need Micro-frontends. So if you don't have an issue, if you don't have a problem, you don't need it. If you do have an issue, if your application is getting big and big, this is one of the solutions. And the main goal of Micro-frontends and the main goal of this talk, do you want to know what the main goal of this talk is, of this presentation? So when you go out today, you will see, OK, I got something from this presentation. You know what it is? OK, I'm going to make you really clever. On Monday, when you go back to work, and then people ask you, OK, what did you learn about at Web? Yeah. You're going to say this. If you're in the meeting, you'll say, I think we need to find an opportunity to decouple these pieces. That will make you really clever if you just say that. And that's a quote by Ryan Florence, by the way. He's great. So decouple these pieces, and then people will be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's really clever. Decoupling. So coupling. What is coupling? Coupling is things that are together in a system that are interconnected. Spaghetti code, and Matteo was showing some really nice pasta yesterday. That coupling is that nice pasta interconnected. But it's not that bad. I think the bad thing about coupling is not coupling itself. It's mostly accidental coupling, when I'm integrating and mixing things and I'm not realizing that I'm interconnecting them. So accidental coupling is the problem, and Micro-frontends might be the solution. So this is the key for this talk, and is if you're going to use a distributed system, Micro-frontends are a distributed system. If you're going to use a distributed system, make sure, very important, that you decouple it first. Because if you don't decouple your system, and then you try to distribute it, to make it a distributed system, like Micro-frontends or microservices, you're going to encounter a big problem, which is, it's going to become a spaghetti distributed monolith, which is worse. The worst between Micro-frontends and a monolith is distributed monolith. So make sure that you can decouple it first. Now, the main goal of this talk, again, on Micro-frontends, is I want to show you the main goal is to decouple the monolith. It's to ensure that you remove all these pieces and that you can deploy them independently. OK. There are many ways to achieve that goal, and Micro-frontends is one of them. Please do try other options before you jump into Micro-frontends, because the mistake that people do is that will be like, oh, I have a problem with coupling, I have a problem with my application is too big, and they immediately just go to Micro-frontends. But they don't realize that there are many options. You can have a distributed monolith, like Matteo just discussed yesterday. You can have an integrated application. A monorepo might help you. And then if nothing of that works, then you can go to and try Micro-frontends. So that's very important. Now, when you decide to go with Micro-frontends, you have to do what you call the Micro-frontends decision framework, which is basically you need to make some decisions about your architecture. There are 4 decisions. The first one is the definition. What is Micro-frontend in your application? The second one is composition, how I'm going to get them together. The third one is routing. And the fourth one is communication, how I'm going to talk to the different Micro-frontends. Today, we are going to just talk about 2 of them. We are going to talk about the composition part and the routing part, which is where React Router 6 comes in. So choosing a composition model, you could potentially break your Micro-frontends vertically or horizontally. Vertically per route, so every single route segment is a Micro-frontend, or you can have a dynamic composition as well. You can have multiple widgets on the page that are horizontal. So this is what we are doing, choosing a composition model. And how we do that, we could get this together with something called module federation. We did that during the workshop this morning. Learning how module federation is going to help you to compose those applications at runtime. But one of the most important decisions, again, is choosing a router. I was at router. I mean, the question is router, router. Let's do router. In the UK, it's router, but anyway. Choosing a router, and in this case, I would recommend using React Router 6. The reason I recommend React Router 6 is because it has a very good composition model. It has a really good thing called nested routing. And nested routing allows you to slice your application into smaller pieces. So that's great, because that's what microfrontends are about. They're about slicing your application into smaller pieces. So one way you could do this is a single router. This is just a normal router. The only difference is the different applications are deployed independently, but it's just the same React router. Another option that I have seen people do is, well, before we go that, benefits, it's fine. Another thing I've seen people do is they create this kind of monster distributed router that has one router there and another there and Vue there and Angular there, and I don't really like multiple frameworks of microfrontends, which, by the way, is another misconception. I mean, yes, you can do that, but it's very complicated. You have a lot of decoupling, but also you have a lot of problems with communication. Features require a lot of the required context won't work. So I don't recommend that one. My recommendation is have a standard router, and if you have any applications that require a separate router, then you can still do that. So I recommend a hybrid approach. Again, keep it simple. Distributed systems are hard as they are. I mean, they're really, really hard. So the more complexity you can remove, the better. So we have a normal React router, and then potentially this could be another version of React router for a legacy application, React Router 5, and or can be Vue if you want to. I mean, if it's a legacy application, I don't think legacy, probably AngularJS maybe. This one it has some of the benefits of the initial router, which is it's flexible. You can replace it with a new router if you want. Still a bit complex. Communication still hard, and it's a little bit coupled because your application will have to be deployed in order to update the routes. But it's a good compromise. Okay? So this is my recommendation. And microfrontends are great for migrations. And I'm going to show you why they're great for migrations. So microfrontends and migrations, they work really well together. Why? Because I show you in the previous slide, like you could have a legacy application and you can migrate it. And one of the options for migrations is that you cannot rewrite the entire thing. And this is a great quote by Martin Fowler. This, the only thing that you get with a big bang rewrite is a big bang, right? So a big bang migration is not an option. Microfrontends allow you to do a gradual incremental migration. How do we do that? Well, one option is using the Strangler Pattern. Have you heard of the Strangler Pattern? It's a pattern where you just remove the old stuff, the legacy application, from the bottom up until you replace the entire thing. And it's great. You can replace routes. You could also replace the different widgets. So this is a brand new application, and we can start replacing it and still using the legacy app. It's great. However, I also recommend a different pattern, which is the reverse Strangler Pattern. And the reverse Strangler Pattern is, let's start with fresh. Like if we're doing a big bang rewrite, but we're not actually a big bang rewrite. Let's start with a brand new application that uses my brand new router at the top, and the legacy application is going to be injected inside. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start picking these pieces and put them into the new application. So this is the reverse Strangler Pattern. And what you end up with is you end up shrinking the monolith. So you see that the monolith starts getting smaller and smaller. And my new fancy new application with new technology starts getting bigger and better. So this is what we call the reverse Strangler Pattern and shrinking the monolith. I'm going to do a small demo just to show you what you can do with React Router and Microfrontends. And I'm also using NX. If you have you ever heard of NX? It's great. This is another misconception. Like people think that you cannot use Microfrontends with monorepos, and that's the complete opposite. Monorepos are great for Microfrontends. So I have an application that hopefully, let's see, I'm not doing live coding. This is just a demo, but things could go wrong. Hopefully they don't. I have an application here that I have split into different routes. And this application is using React Router 6, and it's using module federation for the composition. And as you can see, I have border that tells me what micro-frontend I'm loading. And in this case, this is the home page. But if I go to the cart, this micro-frontend is now the cart. This can be deployed independently. And I have also a shop, typical demo with an e-commerce version website. And you can see this is the micro-frontend using the shop. Now, this is not very impressive. This is just React Router on micro-frontends. Now, the thing I want to show you that's interesting is when I go to the login, oh, what's going on? Something is broken. Actually, let's see. My monorepo has 3 applications. Well, actually 4, if you count the host, which is the shell. I have the cart, the shop, and the about page. But hold on. There is an auth application, a sign-in application. Where is that? Actually, I don't have it inside a monorepo. I have it on a separate repository. And because of micro-frontends, they are so flexible. This application I'm starting here could be, it's actually using React Router 5. But it could be a legacy application. And because micro-frontends are so powerful, I am able to load this auth application from outside of the monorepo, from anywhere else. A legacy application, a third-party system. And now it's loading my auth application from outside of the monorepo. That's why it's so powerful, because it's very flexible. You can have, I'm not saying that you should do different frameworks. If you do want to use different frameworks, come and talk to me later, and I'll tell you why it's a bad idea. But in case you want to migrate an old application, like this could be an AngularJS application. An AngularJS can have its own router, okay? And this is the key. This is important. But the communication between the AngularJS or Vue.js router and the React router is possible. Bit more complex, but it is possible. So this is a demo. There are many cool features about React Router 6. I think we have time, so I can show you one, which is I have an example on deferring data. This is probably one of the best features that I have seen in a while from React Router. And let's talk about React Router a little bit, because we have time. React Router introduced this concept of fetching before you render. If you are familiar with the single-page application way of loading data, you are loading the data after you render the component. So you render the component, you fire on a use effect, then that use effect will return. You set the loading to false. Then you set the error to true if there was an error. And then you have a bunch of use effects. And then another component inside has another use effect. And then you end up with a massive spin-a-geddon, a bunch of spinners, like nested. And your application is not going to be fast, because you have to render, then fetch it. Then this one will render something else, then fetch it again. So you'll end up with a really long cascading request of fetching requests. React Router introduced this concept of loaders, which is basically executed before your application renders, before your React component renders, and it will request the data. It will fetch the data and produce it on the page. Now, why is this important? I think we saw some talks about accessibility, some talks about performance. This is important for performance, because nothing worse than going to a website and then finding that spinner, and it never goes away. And then, because we are developers, what do if you are a developer? You just go to the console, and you just see that there was an error, but the spinner is still showing. And you're like, the application is broken, right? But if you're not a developer, you'll be like waiting 5 minutes, and the spinner's still there, and it hasn't gone away. So spinners are not that great. React Router is trying to eliminate spinners. But in some cases, spinners are good. So this is this defer API that is new on React Router 6. Like, we are not showing a spinner when we load the page. Like, if I refresh the page here now, do you see the critical one? You miss it. Let's try again. Let's focus on the critical one there. OK? It's there. There's no spinner. OK? That is critical data. It means that there is no spinner. I'm going to wait before I show anything. And I will request my data, and then I'll render it. But these ones here, lazy 1, 2, 3, and then there was an error. Those you'll see a spinner. And you'll see the first 3 are fine, and then this one appears, and then the last one failed. And you see that the one that failed didn't break the entire page. I can show contextual error messages. So that thing that broke is not going to break the critical one, because for me, this is important. I mean, critical data is more like things that you have to show to the user for them to use the product. And the fair data, or data that is not that important, could be like, for example, product reviews, in an e-commerce example that we're doing. Things that, if they fail, fine. They can carry on using the site, but they're optional. And we have the spinner. If you focus on if I show you the network tab, I mean, this is so great. I love this feature of React Router 6. It also does parallel fetching. So, I love these green bars there. Look at that. That's so beautiful, right? So neat and tidy. We are requesting all of this data at the same time. And we are parallelizing. And the only thing about performance, the best thing that you can do in performance is parallelize things. You can either make it faster or parallelize. If you cannot make it faster because the backend engineers don't have time to improve the performance, I mean, just raise a ticket about performance, then you can parallelize it at least. So you have all these requests. And this one took a long time, but I don't have to wait for that one because it is not important. So I can display critical one, which is the first piece of data that is very important. And that was fast, finished. I render it. This one, it failed. But I don't have to wait for that one because it is not important. So these are the features, one of the greatest features of React Router 6. There are many. I know we went a little bit, we had times to see like an example demo of React Router 6. You should check it out. It's really good. And it plays really well with Microfrontends. It's my router of choice if you are doing Microfrontends because of the nested routed capabilities. OK, so let's go back to the presentation. I think just to end, actually, before what I have to say, conclusion, demo. In conclusion, when you are making that decision of choosing a router for your microfrontends, React Router will improve your performance. And if you are able to use server-side render framework, Remix is basically based on React Router. I recommend it. It's great. It doesn't have support for microfrontends yet, but that's another story. But I recommend React Router and also module federation. I think that's me. My name is Ruben again. You can find me on Twitter. You can see me arguing about microfrontends there all the time. And I also write some blogs about microfrontends. You will find all the articles about the talk today. So thank you very much.